What's up, soul workers, and welcome to the Recovery Soul Food Podcast meets Michael Weitzman. Let me do a little housekeeping first before I get into this and bring Michael on tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Michael in just a minute. In the beginning, guys, let's go ahead and get this video shared out. Go ahead and get subscribed. If more than likely, if you're seeing this part of the broadcast, you're watching the replay. And I do want to thank you so much for allowing myself, LC, and Recovery Soul Food to be a part of your amazing recovery and life journey. I am so honored and grateful to get to do this every time that I get to blessed to be on here and to visit with all of you and share my own experience, my own strength, techniques, and tools for recovery. This month, I'm going to celebrate 8 years in a conscious recovery lifestyle, and I am so just blown away for that. 8 years. If you would have talked to me 10, 11, 12 years ago, I would have told you I probably won't even be alive to celebrate something like that, and I won't ever celebrate that. It's just not made for me. So I'm here to tell you that to shift your life, you must shift your paradigms, and I want to continuously bring you content that helps you do that. I want to bring you guests, and I want to bring you content that allows your life to change. The beginning of it, just as soon as you get off of these podcasts, off of these episodes. That's my mission. That's my passion. And that's my dream. And you all make it happen for me every single solitary day. So go ahead and like the video. Share it out with your friends. If you're watching on the Recovery Soul Food YouTube channel, number one, I want to thank you. We're up to 135 subscribers right now, and that really means a lot to me because I just kicked this off this year, and I'm just really excited. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on our bell notifications. And now, I want to tell you guys about Michael Weitzman. So I ran across Michael Weitzman on a podcast with Dr. Rob Kelly. I love Dr. Rob Kelly. He has an amazing way of talking about addiction, and he had this amazing guy on, and I caught this episode, and I said I knew I had to bring him on to introduce him to our soul warrior family. So many of us in addiction, our root cause are mental health challenges. Many times we use addiction just as a coping skill or an instant medication, in all honesty. And so that's why I bring Michael to you. Michael Weitzman is a professional speaker, performer, and stand-up comedian. But most of all, he is a true mental health and wellness, stigma and recovery advocate, ally, and inspiration. Rising from the ashes of his own 40 years of suffering in silence with mental health challenges, and his experience with the negative stigma that surrounds both the condition and the recovery process, Michael has discovered his purpose and pursued his dream of becoming the change that he wanted to see in the discovery and recovery of mental health issues and treatment. Michael is a New York State peer support specialist and holds certifications from the MHA and the Academy of Peer Services. And this is just a small list of the hats that he wears in this life. Michael integrates his love of sketch and stand-up comedy with the many wellness tools and techniques that he himself has used and still uses in his almost 6 years of getting and staying mentally well. His passion is to improve the quality of life of every person he meets and speaks with, whether through his speaking, his YouTube channel, or his show appearances. He does this by using humor in a way that helps people have fun with their mental health without making fun. Michael has appeared on many various television and radio, podcasts, and video shows, as well as many other mental health-focused media, educating, inspiring many with his signature humorous style. His own mental health goal cast video has been viewed over 1 million times, and his book and special presentation, The Three Amigos of Mental Health, is a must-read and see for everyone. And we, especially me, are honored to have him here with us. So, without further delay, Soul family, please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Weitzman to the Recovery Soul Food Pod and Vodcast. Let's go. Welcome, Michael Weitzman to the Recovery Soul Food Podcast. We are so honored to have you here. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thank you. What an intro you gave me. Wow. But it's not going to go to my head. Don't worry.
Man, I'm telling you, I have been all things Michael Weitzman for a little while now, and I've watched so much of what you do. I've read so much about just your passion, your dreams, and how you really have a heart to help every single person, that there's no person that you won't reach out to in some type of way. And that's honorable to me, and I'm grateful. Now, I talked about in the intro, and you and I talked about in our conversation, how mental health and addictions, they just dance together as if they are one dance, two separate people, but really it's all the same. And what really excites me about this is your backstory. And I would really love for you to introduce yourself to this beautiful, amazing soul family. And Pamela's here, and Jen Garvey's here, and Danier's here, and everyone else that I can't see right now, whoever's here. Hello, thank you for watching, and welcome. Michael, tell us who you are. Tell us how you got here.
Well, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes, because I'll make it easy for you. For me personally, it started really when I was like 5 years old. And I had traumatic problem back then. I used to stutter, and I used to have a lisp. And when you're 5 or 6 years old, the kids can be pretty mean back then. And I remember having a little trauma or traumatic situation when being very young. Then I had a normal childhood. Everything was fine. Nothing was bad. Everything was pretty good. Normal childhood growing up in Rockland County in New York until basically I turned 16. Now, at the age of 16, you know what you're trying to do, right? You're getting your license, and you need to pass your road test. Well, unfortunately, I took my road test, and I failed 3 times. That was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me. It started a downward trend regarding my mental health, where I was starting now to suffer in silence. I wouldn't go to parties. I wouldn't go places because they were always going to ask me the same question. Did you pass your road test? And what car do you drive? And unfortunately, I did not do well. So I felt I was a loser. I was so putting myself down, beating myself up. And finally, I passed my 4th time. And then I just struggled basically the rest of high school and college. Struggled with taking tests. I wasn't a good test taker, but I was able to get through high school, get through college. And then after college, I struggled for 6 years finding a really decent job. And during that time, as I said before, I was suffering in silence. I was still living home. Then I got my own apartment, but I suffered in silence. I did not go and get help yet. I was still suffering. So then after that, I got into the mortgage industry, and I started to dominate and do incredibly well as I call myself a successful product or service promoter. That's a sexier way of saying sales rep. For me, I just dominated. I had a concept of follow-up and service equals reputation. Reputation equals referrals. Referrals equal money. And I was everywhere. I was doing the realtors, the mortgage, everybody, the attorneys. I was the guy. I was doing so well in mortgages, but remember, I was commissioned. So you never knew what your income's going to be because it wasn't a regular set pay.
Yeah.
So during that time in mortgages, I would go up and down with my income, but I was still doing very, 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 very well. But then there were times when I was just dominating, and people would say, well, why would you get depression and be having mental illness when you're making all this money? And we know it has nothing to do with money. You can have the most money in the world, or you can be the most successful person in the world and still suffer with addiction or with mental health conditions. So
Absolutely.
during that time, I just did very, very well in the mortgage industry until basically about 1999. And that's for 25 years of suffering and suffering in silence. I finally came out of the mental health closet. And that's where I finally went and got help. And that's where I call it, I use a lot of props. I went on the triangle in 1999, means I saw a psychiatrist, the meds, and the talker. And mine was a therapist, and I started my triangle, doing those three things, which a lot of people do when you have a mental health condition. So I started that, doing that. I was married, had two young girls. Unfortunately, my wife was unsupportive and unloving during that time, and it was really tough. She really had. I had verbal abuse growing up, not growing up, when I was married, and it was just really, really painful. It just added to my depression, and I couldn't get and stay mentally well for those 25 years. And then from 1999 up until basically 2014, for those 15 years, I said I was seeing a psychiatrist, taking meds. I was in 5 psychiatric hospitals, 4 outpatient clinics. I was doing everything up until 2014 to try to get and stay mentally well. But I always got I got sick again. I would get sick. I call it the ticking time bomb effect. I would get a little better, and then bang, go off. I get a little better, and then bang, it would go off. So I call it the ticking time bomb effect of the ticking time bomb. I would also be, during those times for many years, calling it I was at the neon sign, which means I was basically, my depression was open 24/7, like a diner. I wake up in the morning, it's there again. I went to sleep, came back the next day. I couldn't get rid of this terrible depression, bipolar, that I was getting diagnosed in 1999. And I was going through all the things that people go through. I had worry, fear, anger, anxiety, negative thoughts, beating myself up. I even got shingles on my face twice in 9 months. So these are the things, the negative thoughts, the isolation, which people are going through so much right now with the pandemic, was my biggest symptom of my depression, bipolar. And at that point, I went, I couldn't get and stay mentally well. So then basically on January 2nd, on 2008, using these winter gloves, I tried to take my life. I had a suicide attempt. Thank God it did not work. And I got committed, and I went into a psychiatric hospital. So during those 40 years, altogether, 25 in silence, 15 when I got out of the mental health closet and got the help. And also I had support, which is a thing I'll talk about in a little while. You need to have support when you're going through addiction, going through suicide thoughts, or any type of mental health condition or mental health challenges. I had my parents. If I didn't have my parents, I would not be here today. I had that support. They knew what it tastes like, what it feels like to have a mental health condition. And that was so important. But I still couldn't get and stay mentally well. It still was bad. So really, after that happened, in October 16th, 2014, I went into my 6th psychiatric hospital. But just before that, a few months before, On August 11, 2014, Robin Williams did what we all knew what Robin Williams did. Suicide took Robin Williams' life. And I was so unbelievably depressed, even more, because I love Robin Williams. I love his movies. I think he's the best improv comedian, the best comedian ever. And I just lost it and got even more sick with my depression, bipolar, until I went into my 6th psychiatric hospital on October 16th, 2014.
Mike, I hear so much about this, and I wrote down a question while you were talking because, one of the things that and we spoke about this a little bit earlier, one of the things that I really hone in on as far as root causes of so many things is shame. And I wanted to ask you about when you're in that triangle, and you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing for mental health. And what's the shame aspect of not feeling any better? I mean, was there a moment in that triangle where you were saying, what is wrong with me? Like, it's gotta be me. And I think so many people do this. I think that's why we have so many commercials on TV now for more pills. So if your antidepressant isn't working, you can take this extra pill and all these things. So I know that that's part of an epidemic too. And that's the question that I wrote down was, I wanted to ask you about the shame that is within the triangle. I've got my good friend, Tiffany Werner. She's a licensed mental health practitioner. And, we've talked a little bit about this in our talks as well. I think that's why she's so good at what she does. And that support aspect that you talked about. There's so many things you talked about in there that I have so many questions about. But I want to hone in on that one with shame. What did that feel like?
It was more than just shame. It was total frustration. That the frustration is that you think that you finally, first of all, you're trying different types of medicine over and over again. Here's just a few, okay? And you keep trying, finding the right psychiatrist, and over. You keep trying to find the right therapist. So during those 15 years when I came out of the mental health closet, I was trying all these. I call it the Lay's Potato Chip Syndrome Award. And what that means is you just can't have just one psychiatrist, one type of therapist, or one type of medicine. It takes a while to find the right combination. So during those 15 years when I was on the triangle, psychiatry, meds, and the talker, which was a therapist, there was shame and there's also frustration and anger that that stuff plus the support that I had with my parents and even going to support groups, I still couldn't get to the promised land. I couldn't get and stay mentally well. So I still had a very serious frustration and sadness, and just almost the times like you feel like you want to give up because it's like 40 years of suffering in silence. And I still, I'm on the medicine. There's no magic pill. There's no magic psychiatrist. There's no magic therapist, but they do help.
They do.
When I'll get to it, when I left the psychiatric hospital, I found the right psychiatrist, the right medicine that they put me on, and the right therapist. But it took 40 years and then 15 years when I came out of the hospital and came out of the mental health closet. And yes, there was so much shame. I would call myself bipolar, okay? Or I would call myself bipolar. And I used to be my diagnosis when I was very sick with my depression. Obviously, I don't teach that. I go the opposite. You aren't your diagnosis now.
Right.
Something that you're going through. And I go into many different things, but that is really it, because this is all it is, man. This is the thing. It's a brain, and it still affects you whether you're having suicide thoughts, addiction, or a mental health condition. I call it, and I give credit to Dr. Rob Kelly, it's a brain injury or a mental health injury, and try to get rid of the word illness which has
Yes.
a negative connotation. But that's all it is. But it's not as easy as that. Just like in the movie with Cher and Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck, snap out of it. If I was able to snap out of it 40 years ago, you think I would have done it?
Yeah.
So the thing is, yes, it's all about the shame. It's all about anger. It's all about frustration that I'm trying the triangle and I'm still not getting and staying mentally well.
Absolutely. And man, that just goes right. I mean, side by side with addiction. There's so many folks, I mean, myself included. I tried all the stuff. I tried everything. I of course, in and out of the rehab centers, in and out of psychiatric units, on medicine, on, all these things, doing everything they say. And I still can't get that internal me to wake up well, I think for me, Michael, and I think that you share this as well, there's a power in purpose as well. There's a power in that place where you become so broken that you are just kind of laying there, and I call it just like emotionally naked, where you're just at that place where you're frustrated. The shame is too much. You're doing all the things, and there just seems to be this break in this, and it breaks just enough for that aha moment to come in, and for there to come in like this purpose. You get I call it a spark of hope, and you got to have that spark of hope to really break that open. And I'd really like for you to talk about that spark of hope and where that power of purpose came in your life.
That hope and that aha moment came on October 16th, 2014, when I went into my sixth and hopefully last psychiatric hospital. I went in and I was unbelievably sick. I told you Robin Williams a few months before that, Lewy body dementia took Robin Williams' life. And I went in on October 16th, 2014, but I made a decision when I went in. I said, Michael, I want this time, I want to get into, because of Robin Williams, I want to get into the mental health field. And I want to work together to put together a workshop where I could be a spokesman, I can be an advocate, I could be a speaker, performer, and even comedian, to really go all over schools, hospitals, clinics, organizations. And I came up with, while I was in a psychiatric hospital, the Three Amigos of Mental Health, which is behind me. You can't see the top of the sign, but it's called the Three Amigos of Mental Health. And I came up with that while I was in a psychiatric hospital, similar to what happened to Patch Adams in his thing when he went into a psychiatric hospital, where Robin Williams played him. And it is one of my favorite movies I recommend. And I'll get into that in a second regarding when we get into wellness tools. But that's the whole thing. When I was in that hospital, I said, this is great. Let's put together a workshop. Let's do a presentation where you go all over and you show people. But the difference is you have to show how you got and stayed mentally well. If I didn't get and stay mentally well, the workshop and everything that I wanted would not work. So I worked hard while I was in the psychiatric hospital, came up with stuff like bipolar mint gum. That's right. Bipolar mint gum. I have a routine on that. I say, bipolar mint gum, I have some for you. So I partnered with Wrigley's and I came up with bipolar mint gum. So now you too can have the taste and the feel of having bipolar. But don't worry, each stick comes with free hospitalization, ECT treatments, and permission to run naked in your local shopping mall. I've done that 3 times. So chew up, ladies and gentlemen. Chew up, America. You know what? I got schizophrenia mint gum coming out next week. So I came up with a concept about let's have fun with our mental health without making fun. That's so important. I would come up with things like mental joy on, instead of, it's almond joy, but I said, let's put mental on it. Let's have fun with our mental health. So my workshop was all about what? The Three Amigos of Mental Health. Which one are you? And the Three Amigos of Mental Health is either you're suffering with a mental health condition, either you're suffering in silence with a mental health condition, or You're one of the lucky ones that's not suffering at all with a mental health condition. But those that are not suffering are the ones contributing a lot to the stigma. So I want them all, three amigos, to help and support one another and be friends, amigos. And that's where the workshop came. And I left and got discharged from the hospital, my psychiatric hospital, on October 29th in 2014. And now I can say I have been now mentally well and stayed mentally well for over 6.5 years because of what did I do? I got rid of the stigma of mental health conditions and mental illness. And what else did I do with the workshop? Deal with acceptance. It took me 25 years to come out of the mental health closet to deal with acceptance and what? Opening up about your mental health. Tell your story, tell your struggles and your inspirational mental health stories to everyone. And then most importantly, I said, okay, I'm still on the triangle, but that didn't get me. I started using wellness tools from the wellness toolbox. Like I give you an example, meditation, journaling, doing affirmations, deep breathing exercises, a creed, prayer, God, Bible, Jesus, Wayne Dyer, self-improvement tapes, spiritual life coach, volunteering, music, dancing. I can go on and on and on. And these are the wellness tools that got me to what? Stay mentally well. But the biggest mental wellness tool of them all was called humor. Humor and laughter and smiles. So I started using all of these wellness tools for 6.5 years now, and that's what got me. I am still on very little bit of medicine. I'm not saying don't take medicine, don't see a psychiatrist, and don't see a therapist. That's not what I'm saying. You can take with the triangle, you can try the wellness tools with it, and maybe at some point you can even wean, which I did. And I feel I am my own therapist at this time, a counselor, coach, motivational speaker. That's what I have become. I take a little bit of medicine, like I said, see a psychiatrist just for the meds, but at the whole, I use my wellness tools, man. Candles, anything. I have a pet cat. I have a cat. His name is Baxter. This guy is amazing. It's the serotonin that comes out of my brain is amazing. So these are the things I'm recommending people that have addiction, suicide thoughts, or even have a mental health condition or mental health challenges to try other types of wellness tools to go with what you're using now and support. And these are what it's for. That's really, really the whole story of regarding the wellness tools.
And to basically create a lot of your wellness tools are the same tools that I use, and I like the idea of creating my own recovery, what works for me. And so I like that. So let's talk about, the subject of, because you and I were talking about how so much of our anxiety comes from being, trying to fit in societal boxes before we really know better. And sometimes that's that uniqueness that's within us that is trying to come out, and we keep shutting it down to stay in the box. So society says we're normal, but inside we're just dying, and that uniqueness is dying with us. So explain to us how you use the humor, and because the humor doesn't seem to be your one major tool. It seems to me that you have many different tools, and I really like that. But I think sometimes feathers can be ruffled when we talk about humor and mental health. So explain to the audience, because I get it. Explain to the audience how, again, and you kind of already have, but let me back up and say this. This is very personal and passionate to you. And that's what means so much to me, because I love seeing people's authentic, paths to their wellness, because I think that is what it's about. You're right. It's not just about getting well. It's about staying well, because there's no destination that we reach. We don't reach a place where we are, I believe we can be recovered from that, active addiction part. But I believe that we're a constant evolving brain and body and molecular structure, and that we're always going to have to make effort to get ourselves into a place of well-being every day. For me, I still have to wake up and use my tools every day. Right. So what I guess, number one, I appreciate your unique approach to your mental health, and I appreciate in your story the power of purpose, because here's what I believe and what I know is that purpose wakes you up every day. And that purpose gives you something very important in your life to strive for each day. And that helps make those tools worth using, because not every day are we going to wake up feeling like, being on the wellness track. Some days that those negative thought patterns and those old paradigms of thought meet us as soon as we wake up, as soon as our eyes open. And with that power of purpose and that ability to break open your uniqueness helps us say, yeah, I don't feel like this today, but this person and somebody I don't even know today is hoping that I wake up and get on the right path. And you know what? I've got a message to give. And so I'm proud of that, Michael. And so as we talked about a little bit earlier too, as we're on that triangle, not everybody on that triangle probably agrees with your approach or your method. And what do you give in that place when you meet that? What compassion do you meet that with?
The thing is, I am not for everyone, but I could be for many. The question is that I want to be a different, relatable, engaging, interactive resource than the normal people that are out there. You have a psychiatrist, you have therapists, nurse practitioners. They're all good people, but I want to be someone that's going to be more relatable. So if someone is suffering in silence and had a suicide attempt, I've been there with all of these things, so I can really be that peer as a peer support specialist, or be a peer to say, I know what you're going through, and I can be that passionate person to make a difference. So when we were getting to before, you talking about the wellness tools, is that this is something I'm asking people to try. You don't need to do it. If certain things are working well, what you're doing, mazel tov, good for you. But if you want to see about trying other things to get you maybe to the promised land, like it happened to me, I'm recommending all types of wellness tools, but try humor and laughter and smiles is one of my biggest wellness tools that I recommend. And I get into it, and I'll get into it now. There are so many reasons why you want to have humor and laughter and smiles in your life. The endorphins and the serotonin and the dopamine is released from your brain. That's that warm and fuzzy happiness feeling. You get released, a reward experience. It boosts your immune system to have humor and laughter and smiles in your life. It lifts your mood. It promotes a sense of well-being. It reduces your blood pressure. It protects the heart. These are things that I know. It dulls and kills the pain. If you're having a bad day, you put on some comedy or listen to some comedy. It's something that might really get you in a better mood. And it also alleviates your stress. It really does. It relaxes the body. It's a natural beauty enhancer. Look, I'm just kidding about that part. Versus empathy. It's contagious. I mean, if you start laughing, I start laughing. This is so important. It increases attention. It's the way to success. Now, you go for a job interview, as long as it's appropriate humor, you could be a little funny. That's accepted now. It increases productivity. Now, people that work for an Amazon or any big company, 1 out of 4 is suffering with a mental health condition that's diagnosed. And we don't even know how many more are suffering in silence, which are not coming out of the mental health closet. So we need to have good productivity in jobs or in schools for teachers, for everybody. And you got to have what? Good mental health. And I think humor and laughter smiles is something that you can consider using and try it. And it also improves the well-being. And what's the most important reason you want to have humor, laughter, smiles in your life? It will make you live a longer life. You know how I know that? I Googled it. No, seriously. The point is, you have all the comedians. You got Mel Brooks, who's 96. You got Milton Berle, that was 90 something. You got all these people. Bob Hope, they lived to 100, and all these people. I'm not saying comedy is going to make you all of a sudden live to 100 or more, but it sure ain't going to hurt. And the amazing thing, this is what I'm going to share to my audience and share to you. How many times does a 4-year-old laugh and smile during the day? Come on, Luna. How many times does a 4-year-old laugh and smile during the day?
I can't imagine. It's got to be well over 100.
300 and 400 times a day without doing anything about it, not even thinking about it. They're just laughing and smiling 300 to 400 times a day. How many times does a 40-year-old laugh and smile during the day? A 40-year-old. You have an idea?
Well, I mean, I'm 47, and when I was 40, I would have to say barely any.
Between 3 and 12 times a day.
Wow.
So why don't you try to get some humor and laughter and smiles in your life? Put on Patch Adams. Put on Good Will Hunting. It's not a comedy, but it's something that it might be inspirational and motivational. Put on Silver Lining Playbook, one of my favorite movies. It's a bipolar love story. It's fantastic. And I tell people, watch funny movies, or it doesn't have to be that. Getting back to the wellness toolbox, you got to watch other movies like Pay It Forward, some movies that are inspirational that can really help you. But of course, the mental part is always, you got to try to put some humor in your life. It's so important. I talk about, you ever hear of Match.com? You've heard of Match.com.
Yeah.
You ever been on an internet dating site?
No.
Okay. Well,
I've been married for 16 years.
And they have one now called MatchMD.com. And those are for people that have mental disorders. So on the normal site, I find a woman that has blonde hair and blue eyes and likes to dance. But on this other site, I find a woman that pees a lot, has mood swing problems, and anger management issues. You know what? I'm in love. Yeah, I'm in love. And we're going unsteady. Get it? Unsteady.
I get it, man. And you know, I appreciate I really do appreciate your uniqueness, man. And I had watched so much of you before, and we had our conversation and everything, but listening to you talk about this, and I really see it. I see it now as humor, as a tool. You know, I had another comic on at she kicked off the show with me, and she's a really good friend of mine. Her name is Kareth Foster, and she also spoke about using humor as a tool in just making yourself feel better from day to day. She wrote a book called You Can Be Perfect or You Can Be Happy. And, I took cues from her because I had not even realized how long it had been since I had really, really, really laughed and brought a lot of laughter into my life. And I have to, sometimes we get so caught up in the almost addiction to feeling bad that sometimes we don't even realize that we're there. And you're right. We'll put on movies, we'll put on television shows that will continue that cycle of feeling bad on. It's about making a different choice. Right. And I do see that I see your style, and I see your uniqueness coming out. And I'm really, really grateful for your purpose. I'm grateful that you have found that purpose and that you have a toolbox stocked full of things. And I often always say this because I've lived through it and I still do. We never know how good our tools work until we have to use them.
Sure.
And, that's, I guess, the greatest thing about having a toolbox and having a variety of things in that toolbox is, not everything's going to work on each situation, but at least you got something else to try. I hear what that message is.
Try. Like, how about for an affirmation? I have 3 affirmations. I'll just give you a one. I used to worry all the time. I used to worry. So with my spiritual life coach that I had, and then I came up with this on my own, I would say, and I've been saying this for 6.5 years since I've been in the shower, stop worrying as much as you can so you could become a much happier man. It might sound corny, but it became a reality. Or I used to overreact to things. Now I say overreaction is not the way. Just take a deep breath and have an amazing day. Just like that, saying that for 6.5 years, the affirmation is a wellness tool, and it became a reality. Faith. I'm a Jewish man that actually believed in Jesus. I accepted Jesus 10 years ago. So I go both ways in religion. Okay. So I go Judaism and Jesus, and that's a wellness tool. I did a webinar today with guarding a church. It's again, faith, prayer is a wellness tool. Cooking, nutrition, or everything. The yoga. There's so many different things that you can try, and then give that humor a chance. So what I'm trying to do is try to make it cool, fun, sexy, and enjoyable to talk and work on your mental health and your mental health challenges. And the most important thing is I have something that was in the movie When Harry Met Sally, but I'm not going to get into the big O. The big P is what I have, which is called passion. Passion. You can't go to school and go, I want to take Passion 101. There's no such course. You have to learn, go through disappointments, go through situations, go through bad things. Great things will come, and you get inspirational stuff. And that's what builds life experiences, and that's what builds the passion. So what am I trying to do? Is to use all my passion in giving value and helping others when it comes to mental health and mental health challenges. And I want my passion to be that virus that's contagious. Now that's the virus I want. I want a passion virus that spreads everywhere, and it helps them with wellness tools, humor, whatever it is, and try these things to let me be another type of resource. Like I said, might not be for certain people, but maybe somebody say, hey, I want to open up now. I've been in denial with my addiction. I've been in denial with my suicide thoughts. I've been in denial with my mental health condition. And I spoke to this guy, and he said, wow, just tell your story. So it's all about telling your passionate story and helping others. It's in the Bible. How may I serve? I'm not a Bible guy, but it says it. How may I serve? How can I help you? And that's what it's all about. That's the success that I'm going through. It's not through all the materialistic things that I have. It's me. Success is, what are you doing to use your passion to help others? That's what success is. And when you get back to people saying, you helped my son, you really, really opened up the eyes of my mom, and they come back and tell you these things, oh my God, that's a drug that you can't ever explain. That's saying, wow, I helped somebody. And I talked about before the starfish. For anybody out there, let me tell you the starfish. And I spoke to you earlier about it. I didn't know about the starfish story until a month ago. And then the starfish story is like, there's like an 8 or 9-year-old on the beach, and there's tons of starfish that are going on the shore. They're staying on the shore. They're coming from the sea, and they're going on the shore. There's so many starfishes. So the little boy is taking the starfishes and throwing them back in the ocean. So it's constantly throwing them back. An older man comes by and says, what are you doing? He says, I'm just taking the starfish from. He says, there's so many of these starfishes. How are you going to throw every single one out there? So the little boy takes a starfish, throws it in the ocean, and says, you know what? But at least I helped that person. Help someone one at a time. That's what I do. use your passion, use the best thing that you have that you can relate to the audience. And that's something I think it might be different, but it's sure to me, I think it's even more valuable when I can share with people with their suffering with mental health conditions, addiction, and suicide thoughts. And boy, I am loving it and helping people so much.
Man, I can see that. I can see your passion. I can feel your passion. It is infectious, and I do this entire platform because purpose saved me. Finding purpose in the wreckage of my life, being able to take tools, make them my own, make this program of recovery and wellness for myself, and then to turn around and stand on the very platform that used to cover me up.
Yep.
And stand on that to help even just one human being. And you're right. When a human being comes back and says, I really, really appreciate you sharing, you getting vulnerable, because what we're doing in this moment is getting very, very vulnerable. And how much in our lives do we avoid being vulnerable? You know, I started doing this about 3 years ago, and it was to really keep myself accountable and to prove to myself that I can break open the vulnerability and shatter shame. And, you know, I do that on a daily basis here. And about your cheesy affirmation, man, I wear this rubber band on my wrist because all during the day, it gets caught on things. And every time it does, I say, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm happy, and I'm kind. And oftentimes I sing a cheesy little song in my head and put it to whatever music happens to be in my mind at the time. And I say that until it breaks my state. And it is. It absolutely is. Everything after the words, I am, is a declaration. And it ought not to be stupid, nothing, not enough.
Whatever it works, whatever it takes.
Got to turn it around and declare yourself as the amazingness and the beautiful, limitless human being that you are, no matter how you started in this world, no matter what you've experienced. Stand up where you are and really understand that it's not a victim that you're there. And even though we've been victimized in our lives, I pray that each and every person can come to an amazing place of acceptance within themselves and can open up that box of, of their uniqueness, and that we can, through all of the things that we all do, that we can inspire a world to shift from the current paradigm of, oh, this is success, and you are your job, and you are your diagnosis, and how dare you be addicted, and how dare you be mentally, have conditions, and how dare you. That's not success. You're failing. I hope that we inspire a world, and especially our young people, to embrace their uniqueness, because we're all made with a unique fingerprint to leave a unique imprint on this world. We are not here to judge one another on whose is right, whose is wrong. If we're doing things, I think, from the passionate goodness place of our heart with a pure intent, I think that it's beautiful. And it may not be for everyone. Gosh knows I'm not for everyone, and they don't hesitate to tell me, but that's okay, man. And sometimes it's hard to accept those things. But again, that's what happens when we get vulnerable. We're not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. We are all connected. We are all one. If you cut us all open, we all look the same, man. Every single one of us.
You're leading right to what I was going to say. There's amazing. Glenn Close has an organization called Bring Change to Mind, and she has a great quote, and it says, "Imagine if you got blamed for having cancer." Think about that. Yes. Imagine if you had blame for having cancer. Why do we get blamed for having a mental health condition? or having suicide thoughts or having suicide attempt or having addiction. No, we shouldn't get blamed. That's number one. And number two, we are equal to everyone. We need to deal with my character, Mrs. Staying Alive. Mrs. Staying Alive, the character of Mrs. Staying Alive, who's hopefully getting on America's Got Talent. If not, I'll get on Britain's Got Talent. But the point is, she is, just like my workshop, the three amigos of mental health and bipolar no longer. It's about equality, equity, diversity, and inclusion for all people, whether they have a disability in a wheelchair, having cancer, diabetes, mental illness, mental health challenges, an addiction, or suicide, or they're gay, LGBTQ, or they're white, black, blue, religious. It doesn't matter, because what? We all are created equal. And I'm still trying to get our society to understand that when I walk down the road, when I was very sick, I would say, wow, that person has a broken arm, and that she needs that arm to heal and it needs to recover. So does the brain. There's no difference. And I want that to be the same, normalizing it. Mental health conditions, mental health challenges, a mental injury, that we are not a monster if we're suffering or suffering in silence. But if we do not get help, it's very difficult to get better. And I'm just another type of resource to try other things that works for me to get, and of course, stay mentally well.
Man, thank you so much for your passion and what you do, Michael. And I am sure that I'm sure that you're going to keep pressing with this purpose and your passion, and that, my prayer and hope for you is the same with myself and everyone in this field, with my good friend Tiffany, Moments of Clarity, with my beautiful friend Joe Potosi, who wrote his book about, rising from the ashes of child abuse, my good friend Pamela Topjian, who has taken her story and turned it into purpose, I believe, and so many others. Sandy Miller's here, and she does these same things. And I am just so grateful to be surrounded by such beautiful human beings, each with their own uniqueness, but each one the same, trying to make and be a change in the world. So, Michael, please let everyone know where they can find you, where you want to send them. All of Michael's stuff is also in the description box. So if you happen to miss that, please hit the description box and hook up with Michael. Where can we find you, Mike?
Well, they can always get me, and they can email me at mweitzman, that's WEITZMAN 3, mweitzman3@gmail.com. They can even call me. I want to help everyone, 914-523-5766. They can check me up on YouTube. I have so many amazing mental health and regular, beautiful videos, inspirational, educational, and even humorous, from Michael Weitzman. They can get me on Twitter at mweitzman, and they can get me on Instagram with Weitzman Michael. And I'm all over the social media. But again, it's all about educating, inspiring, and helping people, and using that humor. A little humor can go a long way. And I really believe that but the thing I want people to understand, that even though I'm now mentally well and have stayed mentally well for 6.5 years, and I love what I do, and I feel I'm funny, and I'm really, really good as a speaker, but that doesn't make me better than you. And that's one of my favorite quotes from Wayne Dyer. He says, I'm not better than you. I'm just better than I used to be. Let's be better people. Let's be better listeners. Let's be better fathers. Let's be better lovers. That I don't have to worry about. But the thing I'm saying is that we all need to be better. I need to learn more. I need to learn. So I just want to be another resource to help people. And I'm out there, and I know I'm going places. I know I'm going to get even further, more exposure on TV. I got to get my book out, the Three Amigos of Mental Health book. I got to get the documentary, and I got to get the Three Amigos of Mental Health movie about my story. Because if someone can watch a movie, read a book, watch my video, and I just help somebody, oh my God, that's the purpose of my life. That is my purpose. That is my passion, to help others.
Amazing. Amazing. And you know what, Michael? You will, and you continue to hold that dream in your heart and keep stepping forward every single solitary day. Your passion is infectious. What you're doing, I commend you for. Thank you for continuously bringing awareness to, the subject of mental health conditions. Thank you for being humorous. Thank you for being humorous in the midst of this of COVID-19, and for all
Stay
the people
safe,
that are,
stay safe, but also have.
for everybody who's suffering, today, man, do something different. Do something to break your state. If you're feeling bad, realize that you do have some control and take some steps forward. Knock that state out, get up and change yourself, go on a walk, change where you're sitting, change what
From
you're
the
looking at.
toolbox. You're saying it right
That's
here.
it. Get your toolbox, reach out for help, don't suffer in silence. I think that is the biggest takeaway of tonight, and use everything you got, because your life depends upon it, especially for each and every one of you who are in active recovery. Whether you've been clean 30 minutes or 30 days or 30 years matters not. Just do something to bring yourself up out of a place of despair. Again, your life depends on it. Michael, I am so honored and grateful for you to be here. You guys, go follow Michael where he is. This is not the last time you'll see Michael. I have a feeling we're going to see Michael everywhere pretty soon. And I'm just grateful for you, man. So thank you for being here. Thanks, all of you, Soul family and Soul Warriors, for being here. You are some of the most amazing people on earth, and I am honored to get to know you. And maybe it's kind of selfish that I do this just so I get to know so many amazing human beings. Every one of you have greatness within you, and you have the power to expose that. So y'all get on out of here. Have the most amazing rest of your Saturday night. Go follow Michael Weitzman, and I will see y'all Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for Winning Wednesday Live. I love you, and I'll see you soon.